Hey everybody, I'm the Drink Pro, and today I'm drinking 12-year-old Weller. What's up guys, Kyle the Drink Pro here. Happy to have you join me yet again. I hope you guys love the content. Keep liking, subscribing, sharing, clicking the bell for notifications. Everything you do to support the channel is super appreciated. Matter of fact, I want to shout out the Naptown Bourbon Club, wearing a little bit of their merch. The Naptown Bourbon Club is a local 501c3. They're a non-profit charitable organization here in Indianapolis. And what they focus on is doing barrel picks, doing tastings with distillers, both big and small, and working to create events for you to meet and drink with other whiskey drinkers. Obviously, it's been a difficult time right now with COVID, but if you've checked out my Instagram, they've done a great job of keeping live tastings going through Zoom and other platforms to make sure that we can stay together as a whiskey community. Thanks again, guys, for the samples. Today, we're looking at the second whiskey in my lineup of William LaRue Weller products. Now, as I've mentioned in the past, I've already done a William LaRue Weller Antique Collection video for 2019. You can check that video out. But now I've also done a tasting with the Weller CYPB, Create Your Perfect Bourbon. And what I'm hoping to do in this series is line up all of the different Weller products side by side and taste them, comparing to each other and giving them some fair shrift on their own. So today is the Weller 12-year bourbon. Now the Weller line is a product line that's owned by Buffalo Trace, which is in turn owned by the Sazerac Company. The Weller whiskeys have been coming out for a long time now, and the 12-year has actually been a pretty common whiskey on a lot of shelves, hovering around $30. It's becoming incredibly difficult to find on a shelf and exceedingly rare to pick up at that kind of price point. You're much more likely to find a bottle of Weller 12-year in a raffle and priced around $80 to $100, if not more. The secondary market on the Weller 12 is quite high as well. But I want to find out if all that hype is worth it. Now, part of what happened in causing this explosion of popularity for the Weller 12-year is it is a very good whiskey by all accounts. For something that is 45% alcohol and 12 years old, it catches a lot of eyes because it's a wheated recipe, like all of the William LaRue Weller lineup. And this wheated 12-year mash bill is the same mash bill and age statement as the early products that go into the Van Winkle lineup. So people are thinking about the Weller products as if they're young pappies. That's not necessarily true for a lot of different reasons. Most notably, when that was first the predominant thinking, the Pappy Van Winkle lineup was still being blended, and some of the juice in those bottles was coming from the old Stitzel Weller distillery. When Buffalo Trace first took over the Pappy Van Winkle line, they had a lot of old Stitzel Weller juice that they were using to make those products, and they continued to cut for years and years and years. And that was around the time when the Weller line really exploded. So although people might say the 12-year Weller, specifically the older ones, are kind of like Baby Pappy, they're not going to be the same thing. So again, like I've said, the 12-year Weller product, we're going to pour it here and give it a taste. And then, after I taste it on its own, I'm going to give it a little side-by-side against the Create Your Perfect Bourbon in the Weller lineup. This will be a fun one too, because the Create Your Perfect Bourbon is not age stated, but the website suggests it's around 8 years old, and it's at 45%, just like this 12-year. So you're going to see the difference in age and probably a little bit of difference in warehouse location. We know that the Create Your Perfect Bourbon is coming from the top of the rick houses. It's not clear where the 12-year is coming from. All right, so let's give this a nose here. Oh wow, already very different from the CYPB. Much more is happening on the nose of this. It still has some of that fruity character. I would still call it a grape. I would say I get some lemons, some grapes, and some blueberries. So there's definitely these fruity notes and these citrus notes. But the caramel is much, much stronger. I'm getting a lot more caramel on the nose. And I would attribute that, in all likelihood, to the longer amount of time in barrels. 4 more years in a barrel is going to definitely add in some of that rich caramel, caramelized sugar flavor. The thing that really stands out to me so far with these Weller products is that vanilla bean. After the fruitiness subsides, and you're kind of hit with that caramel bomb on this product, and it was more of a fruit bomb on the initial CYPB review, but to me, I'm really getting this wonderful vanilla bean characteristic. And so often when I smell whiskey, I get vanilla, but I get this sharp, astringent vanilla. I get a vanilla extract. It doesn't have the natural roundedness of a vanilla bean. It's really wonderful. And I also continue to get some of the creaminess. Now this is less creamy than the CYPB. The age you can definitely smell on this. I'm still getting some of the rose petals, Definitely still getting cherry. This definitely has a more predominant herbal quality. I'm getting it as a mint quality. So it's more caramel, more mint, definitely more oaky as well. The toasted oak is starting to smell a little bit more like a charred oak. I'm actually getting a little bit more spice too. It smells like rye spice, but I know it isn't. It's a wood spice. This sweet, soft creaminess is getting amped up a little bit. I'm getting a lot more sharp, strong, but still very delicious notes out of it. It's the difference between sort of a blueberry crumble maybe and like an apple pie full of cinnamon and more sharp, spicy flavors. This is definitely more cocoa creamy in terms of the nose. And the more I keep smelling this, the more the fruit dissipates. I'm getting almost no fruit now on the nose. It's becoming almost all vanilla, caramel, woodiness, cinnamon. It's like cinnamon pecan on a toasted oak plank. It's pretty awesome. With maybe like a sweet maltiness, it's almost like a pecan pie then. You get this cinnamon and pecan with this sweet maltiness, but then there's this undeniable oaky backing. And the mint sticks around too. Maybe it's like having a mint tree next to your... It's like being in an oak forest with a mint sprig and a pecan pie. Sure, we'll go with that. All right, enough of those bullshit notes. Let's get into the taste of this thing. Right off the bat, I get this sweet, nutty quality, sweet pecan, immediately into the oakiness. A lot more honey on the mid-palate than I was expecting. It's amazing to me how smooth this bourbon is. I keep forgetting that the Weller lineup is all wheated whiskeys, and this particular pour is 12 years, but it's at 95 proof, so it's going to be soft and easy drinking and very gentle on the palate. These are not going to challenge you, but they will show you some fun differences if you can get the whole lineup and drink them side by side, which is what I'm hoping to do with this video. By the way, if anyone has any leads on the single barrel Weller, hit me up. I'd love to try it. I'm almost getting like a fig or a raisin. The dark fruit of like that sort of slight sourness of a dark dried fruit is starting to show up on the nose after tasting it a couple times in this 12 year. You can definitely taste the grain in the mid palate. The first thing you get is that nuttiness, that sweetness, and then you get this sort of honey slash malt slash wheat, really. It's a grain note that I'm tasting. I'm amazed by how little woodiness there is. There's definitely this like memory of wood, this sort of soft whisper of wood on the finish that lingers for a while. But it's very, very gentle. It's not overpowering. It's not even dominant, really. I'm actually getting a little bit of the cinnamon taste on the palate, in the mid palate. A lot of those interesting herbal, nutty, woody notes are kind of blending together and showing up in different ways on the palate. It's really tasty. There might be some almond in there as well. I've been focusing on the pecan note, but there might be an almond note as well. I guess I'm also getting leather on the nose after tasting it. Leather is a difficult note for me to pull out of a lot of things unless it's incredibly prominent. It's not one that I'm very sensitive to, but I can see that on this pour. Let's get the CYPB and see how it tastes next to it. Okay, I've got just a touch left of the CYPB from the last video, so let me taste that real quick after having just tasted the 12-year William LaRue Weller. Wow, it's way lighter. Way more gentle. It's got a little bit more of a baking spice in the finish, a little bit more of the sweetness early doors. I heard the phrase early doors is kind of an English phrase and I freaking love it. I don't know why, it just makes me smile. The extra woodiness really adds something to this Weller 12 year. And I get a lot more interesting, this mid palate and finish is very sweet and interesting and subtle on the CYPB, but I think I prefer the Weller 12 year actually. It's really, really doing it for me, so I'll have to try to find a bottle if I can. That's a pretty high, that's a pretty tall order, unfortunately, these days, but if I can find some Weller 12, I'd pick it up if I were you. I'd pick up the CYPB too if you can do it at retail, but again, both of these are selling for crazy high amounts on the secondary market. I don't think either of them is really worth it. It's really going to be a completionist situation where you're trying to get all these bottles to match it up and have a display, which can be fun, but you know, that's not really what I'm here for. I'm here for trying, drinking, and enjoying the taste. All these bottles you see behind you, every one of them is open. Or is going to be open very soon, which is the case with some of these E.H. Taylor bottles, which I'm hoping to do a lineup of in the near future. Thanks everybody for joining. Thanks again Naptown Bourbon Club for providing these samples, allowing me to do this series. I really look forward to trying the next one, see if we can't do some more side-by-sides and see how it goes. But in the meantime, I'm going to have to get me another glass. You keep drinking like professionals. Cheers.